What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Fab, Freddie Fox, America's Big Brother, and we back again with the Saturday Night Sit Down. What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Fab, Freddie Fox, America's Big Brother, and we back with the Saturday Night Sit Down. And tonight, I got business consultant, life coach, and a good friend of mine, Ben John. What's going on, my man?
Hey man, how's it going? Not much. I'm really happy to be connected with you and here to chat, man. Thanks for the invite.
No, absolutely, man, absolutely. So I'm so glad to have you here. I know it's been a couple of weeks in the making. I met you at a good friend of mine, too, a mutual friend of ours, Brandon Gadeas' event, the A to B conference. And listen to a lot of people go up there speak, and you really stood out to me for a couple of reasons because, as I break it down to everybody, the whole reason why I started this podcast and I'm going down this avenue is because I understand, for me, the struggle it took me to find out how to be a good man or a good person in this world, and seeing what all the things that's going on in this and in society and craziness that's happening. A lot of these young men and young women go astray because they don't have a good male role model in their lives, or lack thereof, or their dads weren't in the picture. As a lot of my friends, their dads weren't around for one reason or the other. And I just remember you going up there, and forgive me for probably overstepping here, but you're just sharing, that your dad left when you were like 3 years old, and you were in trouble and out of and jail and all these things, and to see where you are now and all that stuff is just one of those ultimate redemption stories. That we can come from anything, and it was a quote that reminded me so much that came to mind, where it says that it says every demon has a future and every angel has a past. So it doesn't matter where we come, where we start, is how we finish. And you were a great example of that. So that's why I had to reach out to you and ask you to sit down and speak with me tonight.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate that. That means a lot. And I'm glad that I feel, like I said, I'm grateful that you said that about me, because there was, a ton of other great speakers there as well. So the fact that I stood out to you means a lot, man. I appreciate that. But yeah, you said it right, man. Like, one of the things I talked about when at the A to B conference was mentorship. And that's one of the things you're just talking about right now, was like, I was lacking that. I was lacking like a good, mentor and someone to just guide me towards like something positive and, something that is going to benefit me in my future and like my passion and my purpose in life. So I didn't have that, finally found it, and it just transformed my life ever since then, man. So, yeah, you got a chance to hear a little bit about my story. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, since I got to hear a little bit, I wanted to get on here to really, I guess learn the full story and the full details. But as I always get started, I have one question my first question to everybody is the same thing, is for you. If you had to think about it, what are the main characteristics or qualities you feel that make up a good person or a good man?
oh gosh, integrity is, for some reason, it sounds so cliche, but integrity definitely sticks out to me. Definitely good quality, and vulnerability. I like vulnerability in a person. The fact that someone can talk about their failures, their mistakes, and things like that, and then also how they were able to acknowledge that, hold themselves accountable, and turn that into something positive to be a better person. Is a good quality for me.
And I think that's in doing this show for almost a year, a little bit over a year now. Vulnerability is a new one for me. But I think it is so important too, because I completely understand where you're coming from. It's great to love somebody when they're on top of the world, right? And then they're doing great things and they're being super successful. But what about when they fail, when they fall? You know what I mean? Can you have the same respect for that? Can you take that and be understanding? I think for my mom, one of the biggest things that stood out for me is one of those things of vulnerability, is that she always told me she was never going to lie to me about anything. And she never has. So when I ask her about certain things or anything like that, she's very open and honest with me. We have a very open line of communication, me and my mom. And I think that comes huge with the vulnerability part. And it's funny that also that you mentioned that, because my wife had sent me this thing the other day. It was from Terry Crews, which I love. I would love to have him on here one day. But he was talking about what every man was looking for, right? Is intimacy, right? And intimacy means you have to love somebody, all the good and the bad and all that stuff. And part of that, to get that intimacy, you have to be vulnerable. right? That's the few thing he says. You have to be willing to be vulnerable and give that up and explain your faults, because that's when you know when people really appreciate you and love you. So, definitely a new one for me, and I like that vulnerability one, man. Thank you.
Yeah, man. I'm glad that that's a new thing that you've been enlightened to. It's there's a lot of power in that, man. There's a lot of power in being vulnerable, ironically. But
Hmm.
yeah, good stuff, man.
Yeah, no,
Absolutely.
definitely. And I think, as you always said, several characteristics that go around with it, but also having strong morals, right? That one five abides by and holds near and dear to their heart. So for you, what do you think are some of your most important morals or things like that that you live by on a day to day basis?
I think I do a lot of my things thinking about my daughter first. So, like, one of my morals is like set a good example for others.
Hmm.
And for me, like, the first person I think of is, my daughter. And so that's a moral I live by, is like making sure that I'm setting a good example and in every decision I make in my life, whether it's business or personal, that it can be a good example for her. So,
No, absolutely. I think that that's so important and beautiful to see that. Somebody, while I was seeing this, I don't know where I seen it, but basically they're saying that kids don't learn so much from what you say, is by what you do, right? They learn by what you do. They watch you constantly, and when you become a parent, you see that so much more, right? Like it's so weird to have that out of body experience, because like my daughter, everybody says she looks just like me. She's like my twin. And she does have a lot of my characteristics and personality. So there's certain things that I do, and I know that I didn't teach her to say it that way, but I catch her doing these things and these mannerisms that I do, and all of a sudden, like, wow, like you don't understand how much they watch and absorb from your
yeah,
actions and what you do. So it's so like you said, you got to be so thoughtful of all your actions, what you do, what you say, and stuff like that, especially in the presence of your children, because of course, they look up to you and they're gonna mimic everything that you do, whether you tell them or not to or whatever. They're just gonna do what they see. You know.
yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, being aware of, I mean, kids are smart, man. Like, they see everything, and they're very smart. So, like, if you're setting a good example, then you know that the things that they are absorbing is something that's going to help them and benefit them, right? Whether they understand it now or later is irrelevant, but the fact that they're surrounded by it is a good thing.
Yeah, no, definitely, and I think we all can see that too. When we become parents, seeing what our parents used to do, and at the time being kids and not really understanding or making heads or tails out of it. But now that we're in those shoes, everything becomes so much more clear. Like, oh, okay, I get it now. Um,
Yeah,
so it's a huge learning curve. When it comes to that. Now, you just have your daughter. That's it, just one.
yeah. I just got one 9-year-old daughter. Yeah, so
Yeah, no,
might might be it for me. Who knows? So we'll see.
no, awesome, awesome. Well, when it comes to that, right, to our kids, and I probably jump a little out of order there. So you're saying that too. You want to lead by example and show that there's things, right? So, as a parent, for myself, right, I know there's certain things that I try to make sure that I want my kids to know at their core, right, setting their root examples or kind of setting these standards for them. And for me, one of them is being honest all the time, right? Like I think like that's too, like when it, I guess it probably comes down to vulnerability, right? Telling my daughter, always just tell the truth no matter what it is. And it's great because I see that too. When she does something wrong at school or anything that happen, she's like, what, I want to be the one to say something. I'll tell mommy or I'll tell daddy what happened or I'll do this. I want to apologize. And it's great that I'm able to instill that in her, right? So for you and your daughter, what is something that you think you constantly think about or want to instill, or you're really repeatedly drilling into her that you want to stick?
Okay. So yeah, ironically, massive action is a big thing. It's so funny that, like, I got like 10x behind me and stuff, because like 10x is the whole premise behind that, as you know, is
Right, right.
massive action. And so, like, me and my daughter are like big on that, and making sure that we're taking massive action towards the things that we want to accomplish on our goals and stuff like that. So that's something that we're on the same page about, and she's totally involved with stuff like that, like 10x actions and self improvement and self development. So
No, that's awesome.
yeah,
That's awesome that you're there and being that to stick with her. And I think I've seen this more a lot, right, with guys. whose dad wasn't there for them, right? So when it comes to their kids, they understand, I guess, what that was like for themselves, right? So they want to overcompensate or be there as much as they possibly can for their children. Even for me, and maybe not to that extent. Again, my dad was home in the house, but a lot of events, for school plays or baseball or any of those things, he would never go to those events. So I kind of
Mm.
felt some sort of way. So with my child, like, I mean, I take my daughter to school. I want to be a stay-at-home dad. I take her to school to be able to go to these plays and all these things to really kind of be there for her because I know what I was looking for. So with your situation, you said with your dad, I mean, do you recall much of that, or did you have much of a relationship? Like, what was your overall relationship with your dad growing up at all, if any?
So yeah, like you said, you remember me talking about how my dad kind of left when I was about 3 years old. So that was my biological dad, and then I had a stepfather. Had a pretty decent relationship, but I don't know if you've ever had a step parent, but it's really hard for step children and step parents to kind of, I don't know, get along, I guess, for lack of better terms. So I struggled. Plus, I was kind of a rebel child, so really struggled to connect with my stepdads. But yeah, it's just one of those struggles that happens, and it was a tough thing, man. And I had to learn how to get through it, and unfortunately, I didn't. Like I just never could connect, and so I looked for role models in the different
Mm-hmm.
areas, and
Right.
they were the wrong different type of people to look up to, and so
Mm-hmm.
that's why I ended up getting in trouble. And like you said, you heard me talk about going into juvenile hall quite a bit, and that's when I started making bad decisions, right? Trying to impress people, um, the wrong people as a kid, you know. So it got me in a lot of trouble.
Now it's weird how you say that because I think I mean, again, everybody's story is different, right? So, for instance, like with me, I have, in between me and my sister, we have a half brother. And again, I don't like saying that because, I love him to death. There's really no distinguishing between that. And growing up, him and my mom have an amazing relationship. She refers to him as her son when she tells everybody that there's really no separation. Like he would go and check in on our family, and it's a very blessed situation to be in, right? Cause my mom was in the mentality, and then she always brought me up as saying that whatever happened between my dad and her and whoever, whatever, that's their business, right? The kids have nothing to do with that. We didn't ask to be here, be asked to be thrown in these situations. So she never wanted us to feel any negativity whatsoever in that atmosphere. And then I had somebody called a couple weeks ago, Mr. Tony Ingram. He was speaking about that too, that he had two dads in his life. He had his biological father and his stepfather. And the way he talked about his stepdad, he really lit up when he talked about this man. Even though there was a different things and he understood the good and the bad, there was that connection. Now with you, did you have much, like, know much about your dad, or was it just that he was just gone? Like, when did your stepfather come into play in your relationship and for you?
So it was, I mean, it was early, so it was probably fifth grade for me, a long time ago. So I had two stepdads actually that kind of played a good portion of my life. So one stepdad until I was like, mm, I don't know, I think I was about 17, 18,
Mm-hmm.
maybe even younger than that, I think. And then I had a new stepdad. So I had that whole clashing of the
Right.
stepdad
Mm-hmm.
child relationship dynamic twice. So, but it's funny because, one of them, he's passed away since then, which, rest in peace. But we ended up having a great relationship with both of them. But to answer your question earlier, you're like, what was the dynamic with them? It was kind of they were never at like my sports games,
Okay.
unfortunately. As
Gotcha.
much as they wanted to be like a good father figure in my life, I was in sports. I played basketball. I played football, but they were never like at a game.
Hmm.
So I guess the difference between that and my relationship with my daughter is way different. Like I'm involved in everything she's doing, whether it's sports or academics in school, what she's, how well she's doing in like certain, whether it's reading or what she's lacking in, things like that she needs improvement on. I'm pretty like very involved in this stuff like that. So I think I was lacking that a little bit as a kid.
And I think you touched on it too, as you said, starting to look for role models in the wrong places, because that's what we see a lot too now. Their kids, their dads aren't in their lives, and they see these people out in the streets, right? And unfortunately, in my case, a lot of these drug dealers or people on the corner, who had money and had cars and had women and had confidence and had, people looking up to them, certain thing. And you get the misinterpretation of what real life success looks like. And you fall astray during that path. And it seems like that's kind of what happened with you. But as we've seen, right, there was a huge turnaround moment, right? Something, changed the direction of your life and made you move into a more positive light and then, seeing where you are now. What was that catalyst? Like, what was the event or the moment where you were like, okay, I need to do something different?
Well, so I had a couple different moments like that, and I really don't know because like I don't know how much of my story was really emphasized in my speech at the A to B conference because it was very short, right?
Mm-hmm.
But essentially, there's a few different times, but it's not one moment. It's really hard to pinpoint one moment.
Okay.
But like I quit the first pivotal moment would be when I walked away from my job that I had for 10 years. I had the same job for 10 years and I decided to quit, and try something that I didn't know much about. And so, went into this whole new industry, trying to learn, how to make money in it. And, hold on, my little stand here is dying on me. So,
Oh,
uh, okay. Still there?
yeah, yeah, I'm here. I'm here. I got you.
Okay, sorry. I had you on one of those little tripod stands, but it ended up dying on me. So,
All right, all right.
but yeah, what's up, Wi-Fi? Thanks, brother. Yeah, proud girl dad, just like Wi-Fi, exactly. Um, but yeah, basically, I forgot where I was going with that.
Well, no, you were saying that, yeah, was when you walked away from your job, right? That was one of the first pivotal moments. You were there for like 10 years and you walked away. Um,
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, that could be referred to as a crazy time. So that happened, right? I walked away from that and then went into. I think I touched base on this a little bit. I went into the cannabis industry.
mhm.
Didn't know anything about it. I had a business partner that wanted to be a millionaire and had this big idea that we are going to make millions. Did that for 2 years. Ended up getting robbed a couple times. Got shot at one time.
Wow.
Um, and literally had bullets like hit the side of my door and stay inside the door, thank God, and like didn't actually get through. Otherwise, it would have hit me. Um, and just some crazy stuff. And I ended up like mailing weed product across the United States, all because I was chasing money and I was just trying to, I thought money was going to solve the problems. So I was willing to, sacrifice my freedom,
Hmm.
my life. And so it was just crazy. But I did that for 2 years. And then I started my own construction business after that, after I got tired of and realizing that wasn't the life for me. So um and that wasn't that long ago. That was 6 years ago. So to
Wow.
think about
Yeah.
yeah, to think about it now, um, there's a lot of different moments like that where I was like, okay, this is like a life turning type of event. But yeah, just decided to start my own construction business after all of that. Drew a logo like that night after just thinking like, hey, I am going to start my own business. And now we're in our 5th year, the same business right now. And we're doing really, really well. And then now I got the coaching business company going. So doing really well, man. But it took a lot of, weird things in my life that happened for me to get from then to where I'm at now.
Right, right. No, so I mean that's huge. I mean, and everything that happened to us, like Tupac was just saying, well, DMX was saying, like, it's a lesson or a blessing, right? You go through different things, and depending on how you look at it and seeing it, you learn something different. You can either let it make you or break you. And it seems like, you took a lot of these things inside and made the right direction, because at the end of it, you just seem like you just want more for yourself, right? To do better for you and your family, and it's coming that way. And like you said, seeking mentorship and thinking about like finding that. So, when did you realize, that you were like, okay, I need a mentor. I need to find somebody that I can and help guide me in this path. Like, when did you realize that, and what did you do to find your mentor?
Yeah, man. So I'm glad you asked this question. So I didn't actually make a decision to look for a mentor. It kind of just happened. So I had like, a few different social media mentors that I followed, like, yeah, I followed Grant Cardone. I followed Gary Vee, Dan Pena, Stefan Arnio, David Goggins, so on and so forth, right? All these different people. But I didn't realize like I needed a mentor, right? I was just following so many different people and taking this, like hearing a lot of great advice from a lot of different people. Um, but the problem that happened was I would take some advice from one person I was listening to versus another, and they would contradict each other. And I started to realize like, okay, I can't listen to two different people. They're telling me two different things and try to apply it into my life.
Right.
And so after like a year or so, just taking a beating in my own company, not being able to sell, close, I tried to just go into business just so naive and learning as I go, which was a great experience. Um, but that's kind of where it changed is I realized after not being able to actually focusing on one mentor, that being Grant Cardone eventually, um, it really started to change my business and my life. So I started implementing some of those strategies into my business, and they worked like really, really well. And it's not anything, it's all ethical, moral stuff. It's just a way that a person should carry themselves in life.
Right.
And an enlightenment of that is the best way to explain that. And so I realized at that point, after being enlightened to my personal mentor, Grant Cardone, that I needed to like get in proximity with him, learn what he's doing, listen to what he's doing, implement what he's saying. And I did, and things are starting to work out, man.
No, that's amazing. I think it's huge, like you said, to be able to listen and follow that. Um, now, at any point, I guess, did you feel that there was something that you weren't unsure of the direction of taking, or are you just like, you know what, like I just need to completely trust in the process of what's going on, and just saying like, well, he knows better than I because where he is now. What is your mentality if you ever came across anything that you were thought that was like wasn't gonna work or didn't think was a good fit for you?
Yeah, man. The best way to approach that I've been taught is, just commit to it and figure it out later. That's one of the things that we were taught from Grant is, commit first, figure the rest out later. And I can relate to that because even prior to me, but like being enlightened to his little saying, um, I would just lean into anything I was afraid of. So like if I'm afraid of doing it, I'm gonna end up doing it anyway. But yeah, no, to answer your question, really don't overthink the process. We just try to figure it out. If you have the slightest suggestion that you need to do it, then that means you need to get it done, and you just do it.
And it's great to think that have that mentality, right? To commit first and figure it out later. A lot of people try to figure out right and plan everything out to execute. Oh, okay, it's gonna go exactly this way. Like I know we've all been there, right? We've all like went into like the shower, right? And we had that perfect argument in our head what we're gonna say to somebody and how a situation's gonna play out. And then when we go to that situation and they don't follow our script, we're completely thrown off, right? And then you're just like stuck because okay, this is not how the way it was supposed to go. And
Right.
when you start to do that, and I think that that's happened even me with the show, right? I was overthinking the process of what I was gonna do and what I was gonna talk about and this, that, or whatever. And like doing that delayed me like 2 years. You know what I mean? Like I was like thinking of, oh, what should I do? Because I was overthinking the process. And it wasn't
Yeah.
until like you said that, I was like I fully committed to it. I was like, I'm just gonna go out there and do it. And as you've seen that too, things go on and you make adjustments, you tweak things, you change and you adapt. But now because you're doing it from experience. You're actually doing what you want to do and seeing what works and what doesn't work versus trying to create this perfect imaginary scenario because life isn't perfect. So it's huge, like
Yeah.
you say, that to commit, really.
Absolutely, man. Like I've learned that like, if you're waiting for it to be perfect, you're never going to get it done. Like, I mean, we all know that how that goes. Like, waiting for that perfect moment, that perfect opportunity before you actually make a decision on something or whatever. You're just stalling, and it's just
Right,
adding
right.
time to the equation.
Yeah,
And
it's one of the things
so,
that they say is that waiting for perfection is just killing your dream more than taking action, right? Like
absolutely, yeah,
once you're doing it and you learn, then you can adjust, like we said before, and adapt and change it and really modify it to what you're doing and how you see fit and what's going on. So as you said that too, like you went out there and you started your own construction business. The first year was really hard for you. What do you think of some of the struggles that you came across that, and how did you overcome those?
so yeah, man. There was a lot of struggles, but the biggest struggle that I think that a lot of business owners, especially new business owners, don't realize is the most obvious, and that's like you need to sell whatever it is you're selling,
Right.
service, product. You have to sell, and so I learned the hard way. When I said I took a beating in my first year, what I meant by that is like I would spend 6, 7, maybe even more hours on a project proposal. I would drive out to somebody's house, do a whole project walkthrough, do some drawings on it,
Hmm.
email it to them, leave them a voicemail, send them an email, and I would never hear back from people. And I did that pretty frequently. And that was really frustrating, like to not be able to um, you know, get people to do business with me and trust me and put their trust in our business and our company. And so that was something I learned is basically not only to, I guess we call it closing in the
Right,
selling
right.
industry. But it's got a bad rap. But for the way I've learned how to do it, it's very ethical. It's my moral responsibility to help you. If I can, to do business with me is my ethical responsibility because I know I have a solution for you. I know we're the best company for you, so on and so forth. Right. So it's a different approach. But when I learned how to be able to do that, it changed not only my business but my entire life. It's hard to explain, but being able to ask a hard question, like simple stuff. Have you heard enough to make a decision? What's your real concern? Things like that. Like those were things I never did. You
Right.
know, if I can solve all your concerns right now, would you do business with me right now? Like simple things like that has gotten me a lot more business. And doing simple things like video texting. If I can't help somebody on the first visit, or close them on the first visit rather, on my follow up, I'll do a video message like we're doing right now. Essentially, just doing a video, letting them know that I sent them the information in the email. If they have any questions, get back to me. Or if they need more information, so on and so forth. Those little type of things, man, was a game changer for my company and my life in general. And so it got me to close deals, waste less time, convert people, and basically, like get an ROI on my advertising spend.
And it's a lot of people, right? Especially a lot of entrepreneurs need to get comfortable with that. And like you said, like it's salesmen get a bad rap, right? Like they say like, oh, they're being too pushy, this or whatever. Fact of the matter is, people want to spend their money. And you know what I mean? Like no matter what it is, if it's investing, people want to use their money. Depending on what they want to use it on, well, then that's everybody else to help them, guide them. Like again, but I think the point to that, like you said, right, is finding what they really want and selling to their needs, right? I'm not gonna give you something that you
Yeah.
don't want, and a lot of people don't understand that. And I've done that too because I did sales, a lot too. Especially, I think the biggest learning I did that when I was working at a gym. I was a sales counselor, and part of that was asking those questions. What really trying to understand what your fitness goals are, where you want to go, and filling out where those pain point is like, okay, so how much is really losing those 20 pounds worth to you? Is it $10 a month? Because if that's the case, then you can do that right here and go in and work it out, and understanding that
Yeah.
and working to their needs, and being okay with that, like to get that out of your head. Like anybody who really wants to be an entrepreneur and really wants to go out there and make money, more power to you. We need more people like that, but you need to get comfortable with the fact that people want to spend their money and it's okay to ask for it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, absolutely, man. It can be hard asking people for a lot of money too. And, the industry I'm in is like outdoor living improvement. And so there's jobs that we do are anywhere from 10,000 to $100,000 projects. And so, it took me a little bit getting used to like, asking comfortably for those amounts, like understanding my value and like how I can justify,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
you know, if I think you should spend that much on me, you know what I mean? How can I help you make sense of that?
Right. And I don't think it's the dollar amount really, because I had that same issue when I was doing t-shirts. Well, I do t-shirts now. I make custom t-shirts, and like at the very beginning, it was okay, how do I price this? Like do I feel comfortable really asking for this money? And a lot of it was because I was doubting my self-worth, and lowering my own value of what I thought what I was. And more power to, really I got to give it up to, cuz to my wife, like a lot of it, she helps me really understand and really helped me adjust and set my value for who I am and what I'm worth. And there's a lot of things that I try to second guess myself, but it's like you're worth doing that, right? So having that mentality, it's not about like you said, being outdoor living. And yeah, some of these projects I'm sure cost in the 20, 30 thousands of dollars probably. Doing some of these projects depending on what they want to do. But like you said, if you know that you're gonna do a great job, you're gonna be committed and do that stuff. Like this is what I'm worth. Like you pay for the best. You don't go to Apple and ask them for a cheaper iPhone, right? You pay $1,000 or whatever it is without question, because you trust their value. So that's what we need to do for ourselves and get comfortable in that fact. And something that you said that too that really stood out, and it caught me off guard, like you said, the video texting, right? Because we met up, right?
Yeah.
We talked, and then I get this video text from you, and I'll be completely honest with you. I was like, oh, it's probably one of those generic things that he's sending to people or whatever. And I'm like, and I'm watching. He's like, Freddie, and I was like, oh wait, no, this is like he really took the time to sit here and talk to me, and get in front of a camera. And it's harder than you think, right? To sit there and talk to someone who really isn't there. You know what I mean? Like and
Yeah.
being on camera and that is a very again unique touch, and it goes a long way, because again, like I said, I was like, oh, this is probably one of those things that and in feeling that made me feel special. Like he valued my time and thought it was important enough. So I mean, small things like that go a long way, right?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm glad that you recognize that. So yeah, I do that for a lot of people, man. Like just trying to make an impact in a different way, like trying to be a little bit unique, and touch people. And not a lot of people are doing that, right? Like
Right.
not a lot of people are even comfortable getting in front of a screen like this right now. And so, I think it's a great way to stick out and make an impression, let people know that like, hey, I remember you. Let's stay connected. Makes a good impression, man. So I think
Absolutely.
that's
Yes, it does. Absolutely, it does, man. I really appreciated that. And that's why I was, motivated to do a voice text, stuff like that, like, to match that energy. And then we talked about the conference, right? And just in life, you want to get people who match your energy, right? And keep them around. And like we said, they go keep those plus ones. So by doing that
yeah,
again, I was like, I really appreciate this dude. He took the time to do that out of his way. He didn't have to. You think like you're traveling too, so it looked like it was probably from like, the hotel or whatever. So just very, just real and raw, and just like okay, like he took a moment to say, hey, what's up, and follow up with me. So I want to tell you again, it was very, very appreciated. Thank you so much. It really left a big impact. And then, what I mean, at the end, I think it's awesome that you did that, because again, you just matched my energy, somebody I want to keep more in contact with. You know what I mean?
yeah, absolutely, man. You bet. My pleasure. But yeah, that's what it's about, man. Those conferences is it's about connecting with people like you. I mean, listening to other people, going there to grow, absorb, be a sponge. I mean, just being in a room with a ton of people that are ambitious,
Right.
wanting to grow, wanting to learn. It's an inspiring, powerful energy to be in a room with.
Yeah, no, definitely, definitely. And speaking about powerful energies to be around and be with, right? So, of course, Grant Cardone is a massive personality, right? Like anybody, people say that name, exactly who we're talking about. You can see him and just the type of the impact and presence that he has, right? It's a very strong, assertive presence. What is that like to be around somebody like that, or have him to be able to talk to and have that connection? Like, what is that like for you?
So Grant's a really hard guy to get time from. Like for me personally, I've only spoke to him once really, for 5 minutes probably, and it was really hard to get that time from him. So, and I'm always down there in Miami. I'm always at 10x headquarters. I'm always getting training. I'm always at those events. Um, and so even as busy as he is in there, it's really hard to grab his attention. But the whole point is, something Grant teaches us is to get in proximity with your mentors, get in proximity with those people that have the type of success that you want. And that's the first thing to do is to get in their proximity. And so, Grant's been my mentor for over 3 years. So I'm going to get in his proximity, and just like the stuff he talks about. And so it's been all the stuff I learned, um, that I implement into my life and business. It's well worth it. And the investments I make in my life have always paid off, and I'm always investing in myself is the key thing really. And I think people always should be doing that.
And it's so true, right? Over these last couple of years, right, when I was working at first company, I was laid off in 2016. I had my daughter; she was one. I don't talk about this a lot, but it was just a huge moment in my life, right? A huge time, from 2016 up until now. These last 6 years, which is crazy, intense. Everything that I've been through, and part of that, gave me a lot of time to really work on myself, right? And really ask myself these questions because before growing up, and I think that's like you said, as kids, and we're trying to impress our peers and trying to live up to other people's expectation of what success is and not really defining our own. And that's what caused me a lot of issues and pain growing up was trying to meet other people's expectations and trying to appease other people. And during these last 6 years, it was just me and my family, me, my wife, and my kids, right? Like I have my family there, but again, everybody's doing their own thing and they're not really living in my shoes every single day like we were in high school. In high school, we would be hang out from the moment we wake up to the moment we go to sleep. You're hanging out with your friends. But now, again, I'm home by myself a lot of the time, and a lot of that comes to improvement. Right, I started to really work on myself and develop. Hey, what do you want to do with your life? What do you like? What do you enjoy? Really finding out who I was after so many years of losing myself because I was trying to please other people and really work on it. And for me, I think that the biggest books or self improvement thing that really motivated me was coming across Mr. Jason Wilson, and his book Cry Like a Man and everything that he stands for. Really helped me learn a lot about myself. For you, like you said, a lot of times like it was focusing on self improvement stuff like that. Was there a certain book or a certain thing or a teaching that you felt like really helped you understand more about yourself that you think other people should read or look into?
I mean, it's it's always the 10x rule for me, man. That's the first book that, I don't know, really captivated me and resonated with me so hard that got me to change my life. Um, and that's how I was actually introduced to Grant. Was my nephew just randomly handed me the um, the 10x rule book, and I read it, and I'm not kidding. Like it just changed my whole viewpoint and perspective, on how I should approach the things I care about. And my business was one of those things, and it changed the business and it changed my life. So that is definitely the first book I always recommend. It's the tax rule book.
And I gotta get into that. I kid you not, I'm gonna have it in my Audible library. I haven't gotten to it yet. I haven't gotten to
You
it
haven't
yet.
read it yet?
No, no, I've heard a lot about it. I've gotten a lot of different snippets yet, but I haven't gotten to that one just yet.
Okay.
So definitely gonna get on
Yeah,
that
check
one
it out.
next, and go from there. And that one, and also, and I, no shade because I was going on to talk about it, but another book that really helped me understand and helped me appreciate more about my life was The Secret. I don't know if you ever seen that one about by Rhonda Byrne, and it's all about the law of attraction, right? And
Hmm.
as I read that book and I went through it and seen it, and I don't know if they still have it on Netflix, but it was on Netflix for a little bit too. Just how powerful the human mind works and how we really can paint our lives. And as I got through that book, I realized really that I manifested my entire life. From my wife, really, like the order that my kids was born, the first house that I moved into, the car that I was driving. Like I literally, as you think about it, how powerful the mind works, and we learn that, right, by self development, reading these books and learning more about ourselves and all those things. So, um, as we're winding down here, I got two last questions for you. So thank you again so much for taking the time to sit with me tonight. My first question to you, right? Think about everything that you've been through, and your entire life. For you, what do you think has been the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Oh, the best piece of advice I've ever received. Um, man, that's a man. I got a lot of good advice.
Or the one
That's
that
a
stands
tough
out
one.
the most for you? I know we have a lot of them and stuff, but what do you think was one? I guess it was if you feel the best, one that stood out the most, or whatever you feel.
Yeah. You know, I don't know. So this is my own advice, but maybe you can tell me what your thoughts are on this, right? But this is definitely one of my own sayings has become one of the something that I really value. So and it basically is it goes like this. So money does not solve your problems, but providing solutions attracts money. And so that's something I really focus on quite a bit ever since I thought of that. And so that's how I approach like business and solutions and stuff like that. So, and especially after it means a lot to me after me making so many bad choices while I was chasing money and thinking money was like a solution to all my problems. So, um, that's why it's so important for me anyway.
And that's a
Uh,
really good one.
yeah, I think it's important, especially because I think a lot of people can relate to like what I call chasing money.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just doing a lot of things um, just because you're after some money. Um, so I think we could all relate to that at some point in our life. But yeah, man. There's a lot of sayings that you are not things are not happening to you; they're happening because of you. Is some really good advice. I think it's a lot. Sometimes people don't take enough accountability, and so maybe we forget that. Like, okay, like if I really sit and think about how I actively played a part in this result in my life and why it is the way it is right now. Like, okay, I guess I did play an active role in that, you know. And even if you didn't, it's a really good practice to get into, like just having a disgusting amount of accountability. I
Yeah, yeah,
think
yeah.
it's a good quality to have.
No, definitely. And there's a lot of things you touched on there, right? I think the first one that you said about money. When you brought that up, right, I thought about something that Pitbull said, which he's just another person as I started to look at him outside of the music, just how great his mindset is. But he was always saying, you know what, if you chase money, money runs. Which I was like, wow, like, you know what I mean? Like, if you're constantly chasing money, it's going to continue to run, right? Like, that's just how it works. But it goes on to the second thing, right? And it's something that I learned a lot, like on Shark Tank, is what they say is like, they're not buying the product, right? They're buying the solution it provides, right?
Yeah,
That's what they want, right? They're people get paid to fix problems, right? The bigger the problem is, the bigger you're going to get paid. So all of these things that we have now are products really of convenience, right? Like they just make our lives a little bit better and they solve like a common problem. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, and that's what we need to understand and follow, right? So, definitely things on those when it comes to that. But yeah, man, I mean, it's just so crazy that we need to again focus on those all those things as far as like understanding what that money again you said doesn't provide solutions, right? It does help. And I forget his name. I know like you've probably seen him. He's an older gentleman when he talks about like people say that money can't buy happiness. I'm sure you've seen this clip. He's a motivational speaker, and he's like, you just don't know where to shop, right? Like you make money, you can go solve world hunger. You make money, you can go and do these things. Like it's a great resource, right? And
Oh,
other
Dan
than
Pena.
yeah, yeah, yeah. He was like I know we all seen that one. So like I was like, wow, like okay, like all right, you're not wrong, bro. Like you're not wrong, you know.
Yeah.
And
No,
people
I
might take it the
actually
wrong
like.
way.
Absolutely. No, I like Dan Pena actually, but I know what clip you're talking about. But he's right, But the point was, yeah, the in the context I referred to it as was basically just um, paying attention to the solution, right?
Right,
And the
right.
fact that people pay money for a solution, like you were saying.
Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, and I think we covered that too, because I guess the other thing what I would ask you normally is, what advice you would give to somebody else, but that came up with that where you're talking about the money and everything. So, but again, Ben, thank you so much for taking the time to sit with me. It was appreciate you opening about your story with your dad and and everything that you've been through in your life. And like I said, you're great role models for a lot of people who've been in that situation, right? To see somebody who's gone through those issues, who's been in and out of trouble, who again, we make, we're not bad people. We just make bad decisions here and there, just learning from our experiences, but not letting that define us and being able to turn our lives around. So I commend you on everything you've been able to do, and that you continue to do, man. So thank you so much for first sitting with me tonight.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate that. Thank you for like taking notice and asking me to come, talk a little bit more about my experience and a little bit what's going on in my life. So yeah, appreciate all that. And let's stay connected. Maybe we'll do another one later on down the road and touch base. And I'm happy to see that you're kicking this off again.
No,
This
absolutely,
whole
man, and I'm so glad that you're to be the one that kick it off with me. I think again, Nick, your story is just amazing, and you're just an absolute great role model. Your daughter has, a great person to look up to, man. So, big ups on her and teaching her everything they're teaching. Again, wish you nothing but success. If you decide to have another one, you know what I mean. Like, who knows what happens in the future, right?
yeah, exactly, man.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you, sitting down with me tonight. Again, everybody, thanks for tuning in and watching. I know it's been a while, and as I always say, no matter who you are, no matter what you've done, your big brother loves you. Stay blessed, everybody. Thank you.